What's up, everybody? Chris Servichon here. BetterWayCPA.com is the website. And right now I'm going to talk to you about the top 10 questions that you should be asking about your marketing or creative agency. Now, as you know, I'm a CPA, so I'm going to take a stab at this from the accounting perspective. And really, accounting serves two functions. Number one, a compliance type function. Now, when we talk about compliance, usually we're talking about filing a tax return, or you need to get audited financial statements to give to your bank or to your lender. The other reason for accounting is so that you can ask questions about your business and get timely, accurate responses so that you can make decisions based on that data. So that's really what we're going to dive into today. So number one, which services are profitable? When you're taking a look at your financial statements, you should be able to ask which services in my agency that I'm providing to clients are profitable, which ones are not, which ones are most profitable, which ones are the least profitable. And then the downstream impact of that is you can determine what you want to focus on going forward. Number two, which clients are profitable? Same deal. If you have clients that are unprofitable, maybe you either need to think about raising fees or delivering services in a different way or just axing them all together. But the problem here is you don't want to be providing services to clients where you're actually losing money or not making any money, because that's not an efficient use of your resources. Number three, what is your gross margin? Gross margin is your gross revenue minus your 100% variable expenses to deliver that service that generated that revenue. In other words, revenue, which is totally variable, minus totally variable costs. In other words, if you bill a client $100 to deliver some sort of a service, some sort of a design service, and you totally outsource that to a contractor who charges you $80 to do it, your gross margin is now $20. How does that compare to other agencies? How does that compare to other services that you offer? How does that compare to other clients that you service? These are all good questions that you can ask once you know what your gross margin is for your agency and what your gross margin is by client and by service. Number four, what is your net margin? Net margin is also called the bottom line. It could be called net income. Bottom line is, it is the bottom line. So after you have your gross margin and you take away all the fixed expenses, your rent, your salaries, your wages, software expense, taxes, depreciation, all that stuff, that's your net margin. That's what you make at the end of the day. Generally speaking, for an agency, we want to see that north of 15%, but depends on the type of agency. And this is going to determine really how profitable you are at the end of the day. Number five, what is our average hourly billable rate? And this is why it's important to track time in your agency. This is something that my friend Marcel Petitpas talks about all the time. We've done some content together. You can go check that out. But it's really important because you need to understand, again, what services are most profitable, what clients are most profitable, what industries that you're servicing are most profitable. The way to calculate this is you take the gross revenue from that client, that service, whatever it is, divided by the amount of time that your folks have spent working on that particular service or client. That's your average hourly rate. Does that mean that you need to be billing on that? No, it does not. I generally think that you should be using value-based pricing when you're billing your clients, but this is a really good internal metric, and this is the things that this is one of the things that everything else is based off of. So how you price your work, the resources that you need or don't need in some instances. This tells a lot about how your agency operates and how efficient it is. Number six, how much is our cash flow from operations? And this is super important. This is even more important than your net margin because cash is king. Your net margin can be whatever you want it to be, really, if you're in an accrual-based accounting system. But cash, you can't fake it. Cash is cash is cash. There's no way around it. When we're looking at our cash flow statement, there are three sections to a cash flow statement. Number one, cash flow from operations. Number two, cash flow from investments. And number three, cash flow from financing. Cash flow from operations is the amount of cash that is generated by the revenue that you're pulling into your business. Cash flow from investing is if your agency has investments in, maybe they're holding marketable securities or, some sort of investment, whatever that is. It's not very typical. And then cash flow from financing is when you go out and get a loan. Cash flow from operations is really what's important. That's the nuts and bolts of the metric. That's going to determine how much of a benefit the agency is generating for the owner, so how much cash you can take out of the business. So this is really the metric that you want to look at, and you need to be very diligent about measuring and managing this metric. Number seven, how many months of cash do you have in reserve? Super important to have a cash reserve. If things go totally wrong, if you're not bringing in any revenue, if you hit a rough patch, you need to have that cash reserve to fall back on, because you need to pay yourself, you need to pay your people, you need to pay those fixed expenses such as rent, which will not go away. You need a reserve. Typically, you need to have a reserve between 2 and 6 months worth of fixed expenses, which is inclusive of the owner's pay. How many months you should have? Debatable. Really, I call that the Can You Sleep at Night Index. And we have a calculator on the website. I will link to it in the show notes. Please go use that. It takes no more than 5 minutes, but it'll tell you how much cash you should have in your agency in reserve, how many months of reserve you should have. It's a really great tool, but bottom line, we want to have between 2 and 6 months of cash in reserve, and you should be able to pull that number lickety split and be able to understand how much it is in reserve. Number 8, what is your conversion rate? Again, super important. We want to see somewhere 60%-ish. What is this? Well, how many proposals are you putting out there? How many are you winning? That's your conversion rate. Conversion rate too high, that means, hey, you're definitely doing a great job selling, you're probably delivering a great service. It probably also means that your prices are too low. Conversion rate too low, maybe it means that your service isn't all that great, maybe your sales process isn't all that great, maybe your prices are too high, but you want to be in that 60% range, okay? And if you're above or below that, you need to start asking yourself why. But bottom line, you need to have access to this number. You need to know how to get to this number. Your accounting and finance system needs to be able to support you getting to this number so that you can ask the next question, which is determining how do we get a better conversion rate? How do we become more profitable? Because the conversion rate does drive profitability. Number 9, how much does each employee cost? And this isn't as simple as it sounds. Yes, there's salary. Yes, there's benefits. Yes, there's employment taxes, but there's other stuff too. So every employee in your business probably has some sort of software subscription. How much does that cost? How much does it really cost to bring on another employee? And this gets back to the question about the cash reserves. Do you have enough cash in reserve for the number of employees that you have or that you want to have? This gets back to the cash flow question too. Is the cash flow going to support your growth when you go to hire another employee? Is your cash flow going to be able to support, number 1, maintaining that cash reserve, and then number 2, paying for that employee and still having an extra benefit which can be taken out of the business, so cash out of the business for the business owner. Finally, number 10, can your accounting and finance system provide data so that you are accurately able to compare your agency to peers? In other words, is your accounting system generating data that's just so far out of the realm of normal that it's impossible to compare to benchmark data? If that's the case, you've got a problem. So you want to be thinking about that. Are you using cash-based accounting? Are you using accrual-based accounting? You should be using accrual-based accounting. That'll get you an apples to apples. That'll allow you to get to an apples and apples comparison between yourself and then your peer group. Finally, some final thoughts. Number 1, accounting has 2 purposes: compliance, which is generally like taxes or regulatory reporting or reporting for loans that you have outstanding. And then number 2, so business owners and decision makers can make decisions based on timely and accurate financial information. Number 2, a proper accounting system and chart of accounts is helpful. This will allow you to have apples to apples comparisons, not only internally, so how do we do versus last period, but also externally, how are we doing against our peers? And then number 3, data connectivity, super important. That means financial plus non-financial data. That's leverage data, if you've seen any of my prior videos. Super important, because things such as average hourly billable rate, that's going to be financial data plus non-financial data to get you to a metric that is super important for your agency. Finally, let's connect. You can find me at chris@betterwaycpa.com, phone number 843-608-0298. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Quora, Pinterest, and Instagram, so I'm all over the place. And if you have any questions, please do comment below. Please do like this video if you like it. Share it with your friends. Also hit the bell, subscribe, so you get notifications when I do my next video. And that's it for me today. I appreciate your time. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.